I stood frozen, clutching my champagne flute as the clock struck 7. There he was, my husband, lips pressed against the bride's cheek, laughter spilling from their mouths like poison. But it was the groom's smile that shattered me, a smug, knowing grin that said he'd been in on the betrayal all along. I had spent 5 years building a life with a man who now stood laughing at the ruin of my heart. My name is Leela. I'm the woman he chose to betray, and today I bury my love for him. The ceremony continued around me, a blur of white-laced and bright flowers, as if the world was determined to carry on without regard for my shattered heart. Guests shifted in their seats, some whispering about the beauty of the day, while others snuck glances at me, the woman frozen in place, caught between disbelief and the raw wound of betrayal. I could feel my sister, Sarah, nearby, her presence a silent anchor in the storm of my emotions, but I couldn't bring myself to look her way just yet.
I was afraid that if I turned, I would either dissolve into tears or unleash a torrent of rage that would break the fragile peace of this moment. As vows were exchanged, the words seemed to echo in my ears, distant yet painfully clear, for better or for worse. I couldn't help but think about how those promises had once meant everything to me, how they had felt like a warm embrace in a world that could sometimes be cold and unyielding. Now they sounded like empty promises, hollow and cruel. Mark and I had made similar vows once, but I hadn't realized that those words could so easily slip from his lips as he kissed another woman, binding himself to her in a way that had felt unbreakable only moments ago. David stood strong beside Mark, his smile unwavering, as if he were blissfully unaware of the chaos that had just erupted in my heart. It struck me as odd how he could maintain that expression, like a light-hearted spirit in a graveyard. Did he truly not see what was happening? Or had he chosen to turn a blind eye, protecting his friend at the expense of his best friend's wife? I longed to shout, to expose the truth that sat heavy in my chest, but the words eluded me, buried beneath the weight of shock and despair. Instead, I remained silent, feeling the air around me thickened with unspoken words and unshed tears. The ceremony reached its conclusion, and as the crowd erupted into applause, I felt a strange mix of anger and sadness. I was surrounded by a sea of celebration while I was drowning in grief. The clapping was deafening, yet I was trapped in my own silence, a dissonant note in a symphony of joy. My eyes finally found Sarah's, and in that moment I saw the empathy reflected in her gaze. She knew. She had always known me too well. She could read the turmoil brewing within and the pain that crackled like static in the air. Her smile faltered, replaced by a look of fierce protectiveness, and I could almost hear her thoughts urging me to leave, to escape this nightmare. With a heavy heart, I turned away from the scene, the sight of Mark and the bride too painful to endure. I slipped outside into the garden, where the laughter of the guests faded into the background. The sun was bright, but it felt distant, like a cruel joke that taunted my sorrow. The flowers that had been arranged so beautifully seemed to mock my reality, their vibrant colors a stark contrast to the monochrome of my heartbreak. I took a deep breath, attempting to steady myself, but every inhale was laced with the bitter taste of betrayal. I leaned against a tree, letting its rough bark ground me as I closed my eyes. The world felt unreal, and I struggled to reconcile the woman I had been with the one I was becoming. I couldn't stay married to a man who had shattered my trust so completely. The realization surged through me, mingling with the pain and guiding me to a revelation I had been resisting. I needed to reclaim my sense of self, the strength that had been buried under layers of love and dependency. As I opened my eyes, I felt the sun warm my face, and for a fleeting moment, I could almost forget the hurt. But it was short-lived. I could hear footsteps behind me, and before I could gather my thoughts, Sarah appeared, concern etched on her features. Her presence was a balm, a reminder that I was not alone in this moment. "Lila," she began gently, her voice soft and reassuring, "are you okay?" I shook my head, unable to form the words that would encapsulate the storm raging inside me. "No," I finally managed, my voice barely above a whisper. The weight of it all pressed down on me, and I felt the tears begin to spill over, hot and unforgiving. I didn't think he could. I didn't think he would. My words faltered as the reality of my marriage slipped through my fingers like sand. Sarah stepped closer, wrapping her arms around me, and I melted into her embrace. Her warmth enveloped me, offering the kind of comfort that only a sister could provide. "You deserve so much better than this, Leela," she said, her voice steady and unwavering. "You have to know that. You're stronger than you think, and we'll get through this together." In that moment, I realized that while my heart was fractured, the love between us was unbreakable. I had a sister who would stand by me, who would help me navigate the wreckage of my life. The thought of Mark and his betrayal was still raw, but Sarah's presence reminded me that I was not defined by his actions. I could rise from this, piece by piece, and find a way to reclaim my happiness. As I drew back to look into her eyes, I saw the determination mirrored in her gaze, and it ignited a flicker of hope within me. I could begin again, and this time I would do it on my own terms. Together, we would build a new path, one where love and loyalty were not just words, but foundations upon which I could stand strong. I took a deep breath, letting the sun's warmth seep into my bones, fueling the fight that was slowly igniting within me. It was time to turn the page and redefine my story. As I stood there, feeling the pulse of my heart synchronize with the rhythm of the ceremony, a deep sense of resolve began to wash over me. The music floated softly, an ironic soundtrack to my shattered dreams. I knew I couldn't let this moment break me, not when my sister's happiness was at stake. I cast a glance towards Sarah, radiant in her wedding dress, and the joy that lit up her face momentarily distracted me from the storm raging inside. She was blissfully unaware of the treachery that loomed nearby, and I couldn't bear to shatter her perfect day. I forced a smile, hoping it would mask the turmoil within. The ceremony continued around me, and I made a conscious effort to focus on the vows being exchanged. Each word felt like a dagger, reminding me of the love I thought I had with Mark. "In sickness and in health," they proclaimed, their voices lifting into the air as if to mock my pain. I felt the weight of my world pressing down, but I refused to allow it to crush me. I had to be strong for Sarah, even if it felt like my heart was splintering with every beat. As I turned to take a sip of my drink, I caught David's eye again. He was standing with the other groomsmen, his smile still lingering, as if he shared in the knowledge of my anguish. It was perplexing how he could exude warmth and camaraderie while I wrestled with betrayal. There was a gentleness about him that drew me in, a stark contrast to the chaos swirling in my mind. Was it possible that he sensed my pain? I couldn't be sure, but I felt an urge to reach out, to share my burden. It was a fleeting thought, one I quickly dismissed as I reminded myself of my priorities. The reception was decorated beautifully, lights twinkling like stars amidst a sea of happiness. The laughter and chatter around me felt like a distant hum, an echo of a life I was no longer part of. I felt adrift, lost in a sea of celebration while my heart was tethered to betrayal. I watched as Sarah and David danced, the music enveloping them in a world where nothing else mattered. I wanted to join them in that bubble of joy, but the reality of my situation weighed heavily on my shoulders. I turned away, seeking solace in the quieter corners of the venue. Finding a small alcove away from the main festivities, I leaned against the wall, desperate for a moment of clarity. My eyes closed as I inhaled deeply, trying to filter out the noise and chaos. It was here, in the silence, that I felt a mixture of anger and sorrow bubbling up inside me. How could Mark do this? How could he betray me on a day meant to celebrate love? I longed to confront him, to demand answers, but fear held me back. What if he denied everything? What if this was a mistake, a misinterpretation of what I had witnessed? No, I couldn't allow myself to doubt what my own eyes had seen. My thoughts were interrupted by the sound of laughter echoing through the hall. I opened my eyes and watched as Mark approached with a carefree demeanor, seemingly oblivious to the destruction he had caused. He was chatting with some guests, flashing his trademark grin, and I felt a surge of resentment. It was infuriating how he could pretend everything was normal while my world was crumbling. I stood frozen, feeling the heat of betrayal course through me. It was then that I made a decision. I needed to confront him, but not here, not now. I would gather my strength, find the right moment, and then I would demand the truth. As the night unfolded, I found myself drawn back to Sarah. She was the only anchor I had in this tempest, and I knew I needed her support more than ever. I approached her as she finished another dance with David. "Can we talk for a moment?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady despite the storm inside.
"Of course. Is everything okay?" she replied, concern creeping into her expression. The familiar warmth of her presence enveloped me, and I felt a flicker of comfort amidst my turmoil. "I just need to talk, just the two of us," I whispered, glancing briefly at Mark, who had turned his attention elsewhere. I led her away to a quieter corner, my heart racing as I tried to organize my thoughts. "I saw something earlier, something I don't know how to process," I confessed, feeling the weight of my words. "What do you mean?" she asked, her brow furrowing. The concern in her voice urged me forward. "Mark kissed someone. It was right before the ceremony, and—" I took a breath, my heart thumping loudly as I struggled to articulate the words that felt too heavy to say. "It was with the bride, Sarah. I don't know what to do." Her eyes widened in disbelief, and for a brief moment I felt as though the world had stopped around us. "Are you sure?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "I wish I wasn't," I replied, feeling the sting of tears threatening to fall. "But I saw it with my own eyes. I don't know how he could do this to me, to us." A look of determination crossed her face, and she reached for my hand. "We need to confront him. You deserve answers, Leela, and I'm here for you." Her fierce loyalty brought a surge of gratitude, and I felt a bit of my strength returning. Together, we would face this, and I would find my voice amidst the chaos. As we made our way back to the reception, I felt a knot of anxiety in my stomach, but there was also a growing resolve. I would not let this betrayal define me. With my sister by my side, I knew I had the strength to seek the truth, and no matter what happened next, I would emerge from this darkness into the light of my own truth. If you want to continue following Leela's journey and witness how she transforms her pain into strength, please subscribe for updates. Together, we can navigate these turbulent waters and explore the complexities of love, betrayal, and resilience. As the ceremony progressed, I felt like I was trapped in a surreal dream, one where every smile and laugh around me only served to amplify the chaos in my heart. My gaze wandered to Sarah, radiant in her role as maid of honor, her eyes sparkling with joy as she assisted with the flowers. I wished I could share in her happiness, but instead, I felt like a ghost drifting through the space, haunted by the betrayal I had just witnessed. It was as if time had slowed, each moment stretching painfully, and my mind raced with questions that had no clear answers. How could Mark do this to me? How could he betray our vows in such a public way? The weight of those thoughts bore down on my chest, making it hard to breathe. Mark was standing at the altar, looking every bit the charming husband I once knew, but now he felt like a stranger. His laughter rang hollow in my ears, and every time he glanced at Sarah, I felt a pang of jealousy mixed with sorrow. How could he act so normal, so carefree? I glanced at David again, his earlier smile lingering in my thoughts. I wondered if he had seen the kiss too, if he could feel the tension in the air. With each passing minute, the reality of our situation settled deeper within me. I needed to confront Mark, but how could I do it at my sister's wedding?
It seemed cruel and selfish, yet the thought of leaving things unresolved gnawed at my insides. After the vows, as the couple shared their first kiss, I felt an overwhelming urge to escape. I slipped away from the crowd, seeking refuge in the quiet garden behind the venue. It was there, among the flowers blooming against the backdrop of the fading sun, that I allowed myself to cry. Tears streamed down my face, mixing with the pollen-laden air, and I felt a sense of release in the solitude. I couldn't stay married to a man who so easily threw away our love. The thought of starting over terrified me, but as I wiped my eyes, I realized that it was a choice I might have to make. Just then, I heard footsteps behind me. I turned to see Sarah approaching, her expression shifting from concern to sympathy as she enveloped me in a warm embrace. "I saw you slip away. Are you okay?" she asked, her voice filled with genuine care. I inhaled her familiar scent, a mix of lavender and the faintest hint of vanilla, grounding me amidst my swirling emotions. I shook my head, struggling to articulate the turmoil inside. "No, not really," I finally managed, my voice cracking. "I just saw Mark with the bride. How can he do this to me, Sarah?" Her grip tightened, and she pulled back slightly to look into my eyes. "He's a fool, Leela. You deserve so much better than this. You've always been the strong one, remember? This doesn't define you." Her words were a balm to my aching heart, yet I felt the sting of betrayal still fresh in my mind. But how can I face him? He's supposed to be my partner, my support. I trusted him. The hurt was palpable in my voice, and Sarah nodded, understanding the weight of my anguish. "You need to talk to him," she urged. "This isn't something you can just brush aside, especially not after what you've seen. You deserve answers." I knew she was right, but the thought of confronting Mark in front of our family and friends felt insurmountable. "What if he denies it?" I whispered, the fear of further rejection creeping into my heart. "What if he brushes it off as nothing?" "Then at least you'll know where you stand," Sarah replied firmly, "but you can't let this go without speaking up. You're worth more than that." I took a deep breath, her words igniting a flicker of courage within me. It was time to reclaim my voice. I couldn't allow Mark's betrayal to silence me any longer. As we made our way back towards the reception, I felt a shift within myself. It wasn't just about confronting Mark anymore. It was about reclaiming my identity, my sense of self-worth. When we arrived, the atmosphere was electric with laughter and clinking glasses, yet I felt as if I was moving through a haze. I spotted Mark across the room, laughing with friends, and my heart raced. I could feel the tension tightening in my chest again, but I forced myself to approach him. "Can we talk?" I asked, my voice steady despite the whirlwind inside. He turned, surprise flickering in his eyes, before he nodded, his smile fading. We stepped away from the crowd, finding a quieter corner near the bar. I could feel David's gaze on us, a silent spectator to my impending confrontation. "What's this about?" Mark asked, his tone casual, but I could see the tension in his shoulders. I took a deep breath, my heart pounding. "I saw you with the bride," I said, my words coming out stronger than I anticipated. "You kissed her, Mark. How could you do that?" The shock on his face was palpable, and for a moment, time stood still. I could feel the weight of his silence pressing down on us, stretching the space between us into an unbearable chasm. "Leela, he started, but I raised my hand to stop him. I didn't want to hear excuses or justifications. I needed honesty. "Save it. Just tell me the truth. Is there something more happening between you two?" His eyes flickered, and for a brief second, I saw a glimpse of remorse. It was in that moment, standing face to face with the man I once loved, that I realized I was ready to fight for my happiness, whatever that might look like moving forward. The silence between us felt like a chasm, a gaping void filled with unspoken words. I could sense the weight of his hesitation, the uncertainty hanging in the air like a thick fog.
Mark took a breath, and I braced myself for whatever was about to spill out of his mouth. "Leela, it's not what you think," he started, but I cut him off, my voice rising higher than I intended. "What I think?
You kissed her at your best friend's wedding. That's exactly what I think." The anger surged through me, hot and fierce, igniting a fire I didn't know I had left. It wasn't just betrayal that hurt, it was the knowledge that my trust had been shattered in the most public of ways. He looked pained, as if I had struck him. "I messed up, okay? But it didn't mean anything. It was a mistake." "A mistake? Mark, you don't just accidentally kiss someone." My heart raced, the adrenaline pushing me to confront him more fiercely than I had ever imagined I would. I could feel the eyes of the guests on us, the laughter and music fading into an indistinct background noise. I couldn't let this continue, not here, not now. I needed to escape this moment before it consumed me entirely. I took a step back, feeling the chill of the world outside this moment wash over me. I can't do this right now. I need some air. I turned, my heels clicking against the polished floor as I walked away,
my heart pounding in my chest. I didn't look back, but I could feel his presence like a weight on my shoulders. Outside, the night air was cool and refreshing, a stark contrast to the chaos swirling inside. I leaned against the brick wall of the venue, closing my eyes and trying to collect my thoughts. The stars twinkled above, indifferent to my heartache. I could hear laughter and clinking glasses drifting from inside, a cruel reminder of the celebration I was supposed to be a part of. My phone buzzed in my pocket, and I pulled it out to see a message from Sarah. "Are you okay? I saw you with Mark. Come find me." A tear slipped down my cheek as I read her words. She was always there, my rock when everything else felt unstable. I typed back quickly, "I'll be there in a minute." I took a deep breath, preparing myself to face the night and the truth of what lay ahead. Sarah was standing by the bar when I finally found her, her eyes wide with concern. "Leela, what happened?" she asked, wrapping her arms around me. I buried my face in her shoulder, letting the warmth of her embrace soothe my frayed nerves. "He kissed her, Sarah. I saw it with my own eyes. I don't know what to do." My voice trembled as the reality of the moment sank in deeper. "I can't believe he would do something like that. You deserve so much better," she replied, her tone filled with anger on my behalf. I pulled back and looked into her eyes, seeking the strength I needed to confront this situation. I don't know if I can forgive him. I don't even know if I want to. The thought echoed in my mind, a terrifying realization that I might be ready to let go. I feel lost, like everything I thought I knew about love has been turned upside down. Sarah squeezed my hand, her grip firm and reassuring. "You are not lost, Leela. You're just at a crossroads. This is your moment to decide what you want, what you need. Don't let anyone else dictate that for you." Her words struck a chord deep within me. I took a moment to consider everything that had led me to this point. Mark's betrayal felt like the final chapter of a story I didn't even recognize anymore. But what if I can't find my way back? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "You will. You have me, Mom, and everyone who loves you. You'll find your way, I promise." As she spoke, I could see the determination in her eyes, and I wanted to believe it. I wanted to believe that I could reclaim my life and my happiness. I pulled out my phone again, scrolling through the photos from earlier in the day, capturing moments of joy that now felt tainted. There was one of me and Sarah, arms around each other, laughing as we prepared for the ceremony. I couldn't help but smile at that memory. It was a reminder of the bond we shared. But then I saw Mark's face in another photo, his smile wide and bright, and a wave of nausea washed over me. "I need to confront him," I said suddenly, my voice steadier than I felt. "I can't let this go without speaking my truth." "Do you want me to come with you?" Sarah offered, her eyes searching mine. "No, I need to do this alone." I needed to find my voice, to reclaim my power,
even if it meant facing my greatest fear. Just be nearby, okay? With a nod, she let go of my hand and stepped back, her eyes filled with encouragement. I took a deep breath and headed back into the venue, the sounds of the wedding swirling around me. As I approached the dance floor, I spotted Mark across the room, his laughter mingling with the music, oblivious to the storm brewing inside me. David stood beside him, and for a moment I met his gaze again. This time there was concern etched on his face. I walked straight towards Mark, each step heavy with purpose. He turned, surprise flashing in his eyes as I approached. "We need to talk," I said firmly, feeling the energy shift between us. The laughter faded into an awkward silence, and suddenly, everyone seemed to be watching.
"Lila, not here," Mark began, but I cut him off, unwavering. "No, this is exactly where we need to talk. You can't hide from this anymore." The tension in the air crackled like electricity, and I could feel the weight of the moment settling over us. This was my chance to reclaim my voice, to set the course for my future. I was ready to face the truth, whatever it may bring. I stood my ground, my heart pounding like a war drum in my chest, drowning out the soft murmurs of the guests milling about the wedding venue. Mark's expression twisted from shock to defensiveness, and for a fleeting moment, I could see the panic flickering in his eyes. I had a feeling he thought he could charm his way out of this, but today, I was done with charm. "You think we can just pretend like everything is fine? Like I didn't just witness you betray me?" I took a deep breath, trying to steady my voice. "I'm not going to let you weasel your way out of this one."
His lips parted as if he wanted to say something, but the words seemed to get stuck in his throat. I could see him grappling with the weight of the moment. My heart ached for the man I thought he was, but that man was gone, replaced by someone I barely recognized. In the back of my mind, I could hear the laughter of the guests, the clinking of glasses, and the soft music playing in the background, but it all faded away. This was our moment, and it felt like the entire world had shrunk to just the two of us. "Leela, please, let's not do this here," he finally pleaded, but I was beyond caring about the appropriate time or place. My sister was getting married, a day meant for joy and celebration, and yet it was also the day my entire life had collapsed. I felt a surge of indignation. "Do you even care about this wedding? About Sarah?" I demanded, my voice rising with each word. "You've ruined the most important day of her life." He looked momentarily chastened, and for a brief instant, I hoped he might show some remorse. But then the mask slipped back into place, and all I saw was defensiveness. "It was a mistake, Leela. I didn't mean for it to happen." His voice was rising now, echoing in the empty corner we had retreated to. It was as if he thought that calling it a mistake would somehow take away the gravity of his actions. It only fueled my fire. "You didn't just kiss her by accident, Mark. You chose to betray me, and that's something you need to own." My fists were clenched at my sides, and I felt a mix of anger and hurt that made my stomach churn. I was being stripped of my dignity right in front of him, yet I refused to allow him to wield any more power over me. "Can we just talk about this later?" he said, glancing nervously toward the reception area, as if he were worried someone might overhear our confrontation. "You don't want to ruin this day for Sarah." "That's rich coming from you," I snapped. I took a step back, needing space to gather my thoughts. "You've already ruined it for me. This isn't just about her. It's about me, too. I deserve respect, Mark." Just as I turned away, needing to escape the suffocating atmosphere he had created, I caught David's eye again. He stood a little distance away, still watching us with that same understanding smile. There was something about it that struck me, an unspoken solidarity, perhaps? I felt a wave of gratitude wash over me. Even in this tumult, I wasn't completely alone. "Leela," Mark called after me, desperation evident in his voice. "Please, I'm sorry. I love you." Those words sliced through me like a knife. How could he possibly love me while he was betraying me? Love isn't supposed to hurt, Mark, I shot back, my voice trembling but firm. Not like this. You don't get to say you love me when your actions speak so loudly of otherwise. Before he could respond, I walked away, feeling my heart pounding against my ribcage. I needed to find Sarah, to cling to her strength and love. I quickly made my way through the reception area, dodging guests, the sounds of their laughter blending into a cacophony. The sight of her, radiant in her wedding dress, filled me with a bittersweet warmth. She was so blissfully unaware of the storm that had just erupted in my life. "Leela," she exclaimed, her face lighting up when she saw me. "I've been looking for you. Everything is perfect, isn't it?" I wanted to smile and say yes, but instead my throat tightened. "Not exactly," I managed to say, forcing the words out. "Can we talk?" "Of course," she replied, her joy fading as she noticed my somber tone. "What's wrong?" We found a quiet corner away from the festivities, and as I began to share what had happened, I felt the weight of my heartache spilling out. The disbelief, the anger, the betrayal, it all poured out of me in a torrent of emotion. I watched as Sarah's expression shifted from confusion to concern, and then to fierce protectiveness. "Leela, how could he?" she gasped, her eyes wide with shock. "You deserve so much better. Are you okay?" "I don't know," I admitted, wiping away a tear that had escaped. "I feel like I'm in a nightmare that I can't wake up from." "I'm here for you, always," she reassured me, wrapping her arms around me tightly. "No matter what happens next, we'll figure it out together. You're not alone in this." As I stood there, enveloped in her love, I felt a flicker of hope ignite within me. This was my sister, my rock, and with her by my side, I could face whatever came next. In that moment, I realized that despite the heartache and chaos, I was ready to reclaim my life. The journey ahead wouldn't be easy, but I wouldn't have to walk it alone. And as the music continued to play and laughter rang out from the reception, I looked back over my shoulder, catching David's gaze once more. He seemed to understand, as if he sensed the shift within me. I steeled my resolve. I would not be a victim of Mark's choices any longer. Life had thrown me into a whirlwind, but I was determined to find my footing. I could feel it deep within me, a fierce desire to rebuild, to redefine what love and loyalty meant, not just for my sister, but for myself. As I took a deep breath, ready to step back into the world, I couldn't help but think of the untold stories of others who had faced similar betrayals. Sharing these experiences could be a source of strength, a reminder that we are never truly alone in our struggles. I wanted to hear from others, to connect and heal together, because in the end, that was what truly mattered. With newfound determination, I stepped out of the shadows and into the sunlit reception hall, my heart still racing from the events of the ceremony. The laughter and chatter of guests filled the air, but it felt like static to me, a hollow echo of what should have been a joyous celebration. I scanned the crowd, searching for Sarah, her cheerful energy a beacon amidst my swirling emotions. When I finally spotted her, dancing with abandon in her flowing gown, I felt a twinge of envy mixed with admiration. She was so carefree, so alive. I envied her ability to immerse herself in the moment while my heart was fractured, echoing the betrayal I had just witnessed. I forced myself to approach, smiling despite the pain gnawing at me. Sarah caught sight of me, and her expression shifted, concern flickering in her eyes. She tugged me toward her, pulling me into the dance. "You made it!" she exclaimed, her joy undeniable. I nodded, masking the turmoil inside. "Yeah, I just needed a moment," I replied, my voice more fragile than I intended. As I twirled with her, I felt my heart constrict at the thought of Mark, his betrayal looming like a storm cloud over my head. I wanted to enjoy this moment with Sarah, but the shadow of that stolen kiss lingered, tainting everything. "Are you okay?" Sarah asked, her brow furrowing. I hesitated, the truth tangling on my tongue. The words felt heavy, laden with grief and confusion. But just as I opened my mouth to speak, I caught sight of Mark across the room, laughing with David, oblivious to my presence. My heart sank further, a weight anchoring me to the spot. I forced myself to look away, redirecting my gaze back to Sarah. "I will be," I finally said, forcing a smile that didn't quite reach my eyes. "Just a little overwhelmed, I guess." She nodded, her expression a mix of sympathy and encouragement. "You don't have to pretend with me, Leela, if you need to talk." Her voice trailed off, and I could see the worry in her eyes. Sarah had always been my confidant, but how could I lay this burden on her? Not on her wedding day. I wanted her to revel in her happiness, to remember this day as beautiful, free from the darkness that had enveloped me. So instead, I forced a laugh, a bright sound that felt foreign. "No, really, I'm fine, just excited for you." As we danced, I felt the weight of the world lift slightly, the rhythm momentarily drowning out the chaos in my heart. Sarah spun me around, her laughter infectious, but soon the music shifted, and I found myself standing still, my thoughts racing back to the moment I saw Mark with the bride. My heart screamed, the betrayal still fresh, but I had to pull myself together. I needed to be present for Sarah. "Excuse me, ladies," a voice interrupted, breaking my reverie. It was David, his smile warm yet tinged with concern. "Leela, can we talk for a minute?" A knot tightened in my stomach. The last thing I wanted was to discuss the chaos that had erupted in my life, but I could see the sincerity in his eyes. I nodded, following him to a quieter corner, away from the joyful noise of the celebration. "Are you holding up okay?" he asked, his voice gentle yet probing. I bit my lip, searching for words. I'm managing," I finally replied. He looked down for a moment, then met my gaze. "I know this is a lot, and I want you to know that I'm here for you. You don't have to go through this alone." I wanted to express my gratitude, to tell him how much it meant to me that he was concerned. Yet my emotions were a tangled mess, and instead I replied, "Thank you, David. It means a lot." He shifted uncomfortably, glancing toward the main hall where the reception buzzed with laughter and music. "I saw what happened today. I'm so sorry, Leela. You deserve so much better." His words were like a balm to my wounded heart, and I felt a flicker of hope. I realized that amidst this chaos, I had allies. Sarah, David, my mother. I wouldn't face this storm alone. "I appreciate that, but today is about you and Sarah. I don't want to take away from your happiness," I insisted, the weight of my own heartache threatening to spill over. David nodded, understanding shining in his eyes. "Just remember, if you need anything, I'm only a call away. And I'll make sure Mark knows he messed up. You shouldn't have to shoulder this." The thought of Mark facing consequences felt oddly satisfying. But deep down, I knew I had to confront him myself. This was my fight, my story to reshape. As I returned to Sarah, I felt a mixture of gratitude and sorrow. I was determined to protect her joy while grappling with my own shattered heart. The room buzzed around me, and I took a deep breath, focusing on the warmth of my sister's love. I knew the road ahead would be fraught with challenges, but I was ready to reclaim my narrative, to rise from the ashes of betrayal and find my strength. Today was just the beginning, and with Sarah by my side, I felt ready to face whatever came next. And as I watched my sister dance, her joy illuminating the room, I couldn't help but feel a sense of resolve. I would not let this moment define me. I would rise, and in doing so, I would rebuild not just for myself, but for everyone who believed in love, loyalty, and the unbreakable bond of sisterhood. The journey would be long, but I was ready to take the first step.